It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, July 30th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine this morning. Scattered thunderstorms possible this afternoon. Hot and humid all day. The high going to be 95. Tonight and overnight, some clouds hang around, low 78. And then Thursday, sun and clouds in the morning. Thunderstorms possible in the afternoon, but definitely not as hot tomorrow. The high only going to be 83. And then Friday, the high may not even hit 70. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 79 and clear in Islip out on Long Island. It's 77 and clear in Berlin over in New Jersey. And it's 79 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
We are learning more about the victims of the Park Avenue shooting. A Bronx couple describes a really scary moment during the Dominican parade. So did dead people really vote in the June primary? The beach may close again for worship in one New Jersey beach town. And there's a new celebrity couple getting a lot of attention. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. Now we know the 4 people that were killed in the Park Avenue shooting on Monday. Their names have all been released. Here's what we know about the victims. One of them, whose name was released early yesterday morning, Wesley LePatner, 43-year-old Blackstone employee, a wife and a mom. She was the senior managing director at Blackstone, spent the last 10 years working in the real estate division there. She had previously been at Goldman Sachs, graduated from Yale University, was on the boards of a whole bunch of different charities. In the wake of the October 7th attacks, she actually led a solidarity mission to Israel. She's survived by her husband and her children. Here's somebody who works in the building where she lived.
Happy family. They play soccer. One of the kids play baseball. Loving mom. I'm sorry to hear that happened.
And we're learning more about the police officer who was shot dead, Didarul Islam, the father of 2 and his wife 8 months pregnant. She's due with their 3rd child next month. And we are hearing from some family members and friends of his up in the Bronx.
It is the way our city can show this family that we will never forget this police officer, that he was willing to put his life on the line for the entire city.
That's the head of the PBA. Islam is an immigrant from Bangladesh who was assigned to the 47th precinct at a station house in Baychester where there is purple bunting hanging today. He was on the force 3.5 years. So he was off duty, working private security detail in that building at 345 Park Avenue at the time of the shooting. He was wearing a uniform which would have included a bullet-resistant vest, and he was carrying a weapon.
His wife is having, we're expecting a baby next month. And other 2 boys, very little. It's not too big.
Yeah, just terrible. And up in his neighborhood, people who knew him, they were speaking out yesterday.
I'm very sad to hear that, and I know how she's feeling now. I could feel that. But all of my condolences.
The funeral for the officer will take place tomorrow. There was a security officer who was in this building who was shot dead as well. Alan Etienne. He was had been working in the building for a while. And here is his son who spoke out yesterday.
I'm still trying to process what happened yesterday. And our prayers with everybody that's affected by this. And it's a very tough time right now.
So Etienne's partner of 8 years, Rachel Paoli, is the mother of a boy who will turn 7 on Saturday. She says she's waiting for Etienne's 5 siblings to arrive from Florida to figure out funeral services. And then the 4th person that was shot dead was a 27-year-old. Her name was Julia Hyman. She worked on the 33rd floor. So if you've been following this story, the gunman was apparently there to do damage and kill people, apparently within the NFL, because he was upset about the fact that he thought he had CTE from playing football. Now, he had never played professional football, but he had played at the high school level. But when he got into the elevator to go to the NFL's offices, which were in this building at 345 Park, he took it to the 33rd floor, which was not where the NFL was, but was where Rudin Property Management was. And unfortunately, Julie Hyman, this 27-year-old, she was shot dead. She had graduated from Cornell's Hotel of Administration back in 2020, remembered as an extraordinary student whose academic achievements, intellectual curiosity had made a lasting impression at Yale. So she survived by her parents and her sister Allie, who also graduated from Cornell. And then we were waiting for more information on this 41-year-old NFL employee who works in the finance department who was seriously injured in the attack. But thank God he's alive. He's hospitalized, from what we're being told this morning, in stable condition. And then last night, New Yorkers just beyond upset about this. This is not the kind of thing we see happen, workplace shootings in New York almost ever. I mean, it's hard for me to come up with many. So there was a vigil last night to pay tribute to the lives lost. This was in Bryant Park. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch was there, Mayor Adams, Governor Hochul, and a lot of people who just didn't even know the family members came out to worship for those families.
I believe in God, and I believe that when we're in crisis, we have to be there for each other. We have to pray for one another.
Now, NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch, who attended the vigil, revealed that she did not only lose one of her officers who was shot dead, but a personal friend, Wesley Patner, the 43-year-old businesswoman. They were good friends. Here she was at the vigil last night.
My beautiful friend Wesley, they were taken from our arms in violence. They now rest in God's arms in peace. May their memories be a blessing.
The service featured a rainbow of faiths, ethnicities, and languages during the service. There were flowers that were brought in that were all over Bryant Park last night.
Even though something tragic happened, we also saw something so beautiful tonight, which is a collective prayer of people from all over the world.
It's incomprehensible, and I just felt I needed to be here.
And there was, like I said, tons of flowers for this vigil last night. They were taken away last night. They were kept cool in some sort of refrigerator last night, and this morning they'll be delivered, actually, to 345 Park Avenue as the city prepares to say farewell to these four victims. WABC News Time 5:09, police investigating a possible associate of the gunman behind the Park Avenue shooting on Monday. Mayor Adams says pieces of the semi-automatic rifle used in the killings were bought by an associate of Shane Tamora.
We are now attempting to identify him and question him at this time.
Adams called it an evolving investigation. Reports say Tamora appeared to be targeting the NFL headquarters, had a note claiming he suffered from CTE. Mayor Adams talking more about that there might be others connected to this shooting.
It is undetermined at this time if he played any role at all in planning or carrying out this action. The lower part, we are finding out, was purchased by an associate.
And now we had told you there was that initial note that was found on the gunman after the shooting that suggested it was connected to his CTE and mental health problems, and that he even suggested that once they did an autopsy that they study his brain, that maybe he had been injured a number of times while playing high school football in California. Now we're hearing a second note was found in Las Vegas where Tamora lived, and what we're being told is in that note he apologizes to his parents for what he had done or what he was about to do. We're still waiting for more information on this note, but apparently a second note left in his home in Las Vegas where he apologized to his parents for what he was about to do. 5:10 was the city continues to react to Monday night's mass shootings. Cops investigating a different man who was arrested for walking around the city with a gun.
This happened in the Highbridge section around noon, sending the neighborhood into lockdown as cops responded responded to what's been described as a panicked scene. Reports have it the guy may have been carrying around a long gun. Eventually, he was taken into custody on Nelson Avenue as cops arrived to look around. A photo obtained by the New York Post shows the man in question wearing a black T-shirt, black shorts, white sneakers, and a black backpack, holding that firearm in his left hand. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
WABC News Time 511. Minor injuries for 6 firefighters after a 4-alarm fire gutted a strip of stores in Queens.
It happened in Middle Village around 11:15 Monday night. A fire broke out inside one of the stores on Dry Harbor Road, then spread to others. 7 stores were damaged by fire and or smoke. The overnight heat caused problems for firefighters, prompting the calls for more backup. The cause of the fire is under investigation. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
The extreme heat is believed to be the blame for signal problems that caused all kinds of major disruptions to subway service here in the city yesterday. James Flippin, of course, our news director, it took him hours to get here because trains just stopped. Some lines were suspended. Commuters like this guy, Omar, he was on a platform dripping sweat in the middle of the rush.
It was 15 minutes delayed. And then it arrived on the wrong track for some signal error. That's what they said. So we had to switch in Delancey and go back to the track that's going to Manhattan. That's what happened.
So thousands of commuters who were just trying to get to work had to wait as crews had to reboot the system, which left signals stuck on red and unable to switch to green or yellow. So that's why you were delayed yesterday, if you were wondering why. New York City Transit president says the heat can cause a strain on the system and that investigation into the outage is well underway.
Again, the team is right now investigating what caused the outage.
Now, our concern yesterday when the story was breaking was what is happening to the people stuck on trains. Are they in hot trains when it's 100 degrees and in those tunnels sometimes hotter? But what we learned yesterday is luckily there's a separate system that powers the AC on the trains, and apparently that was working yesterday. 5:13. A massive magnitude 8.8 earthquake off the coast of far eastern Russia was prompting tsunami warnings and evacuations stretching across the Pacific Ocean, including parts of the Japanese seaboard.
Tsunami alarms sounded in coastal towns across Japan's Pacific coast, with authorities urging people to seek higher ground. Footage showed people in the northern island of Hokkaido on the roof of a building while workers evacuated the stricken Fukushima nuclear plant, where a meltdown following the 2011 tsunami caused a radioactive disaster. Tsunami waves of between 30 and 40 centimeters have hit parts of northern Japan so far, with authorities warning of larger subsequent waves. There were no injuries or damage reported so far, and no irregularities at nuclear plants, according to Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary. Laura Westbrook, Hong Kong.
Yeah, and we were worried about the tsunami waves here. They reached Hawaii and the West Coast. This was about 7 o'clock last night. The waves began arriving in Hawaii, 7 o'clock local time there. So far, the observations were heartening to officials who were bracing for major damage in Hawaii. They say so far they have not seen a wave of consequence, which they say is a great relief to us because this earthquake was just huge. All right, coming up on 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Good morning, Noam Laden. Just some baseball to get to here in the Bronx. Cody Bellinger hit a 3-run homer. Anthony Volpe also went deep, and the Yankees erased an early deficit in a 7-5 victory over the Tampa Bay Rays. Max Fried recovered from a rough start and threw a career-high 111 pitches in 6 2/3 innings of work. Volpe delivered a tie-breaking single in the fourth and launched a 452-foot homer to center field in the eighth, the longest of his career. He also committed 2 throwing errors at shortstop, the second one on a play that should have ended the game. That gave Tampa Bay another chance before Devin Williams struck at all-star Jonathan Aranda with runners at second and third for his 17th save. He has been as advertised lately. New York pulled within 4 games of first-place Toronto in the AL East after falling 6.5 games back last weekend. Fried, 12-4 in the year, allowed 4 runs, 2 earned, and 4 hits, while surpassing his previous career high of 110 pitches for Atlanta at Philadelphia in September of 2022. Paul Goldschmidt added a run-scoring single that made it 6-3. Up next for the Yankees, rookie Will Warren gets a start in the third game of this 4-game set against Tampa. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05 p.m. tonight from Yankee Stadium in San Diego. The Mets got routed, I should say, by the Padres. The final score 7-1. Good for New York's second straight loss after 7 straight wins. To boot, the Mets watched slugger Juan Soto lead the game after fouling a ball off his left foot in the fourth. They announced that Soto has a bruised foot. He was in considerable pain as he was checked by a trainer, took a few swings, and finished his at-bat, grounding out to second. New York tied it in the fifth on pinch hitter Starling Marte's bases loaded sacrifice fly, but that was the extent of their offensive output for the night. Starter Sean Manaea allowed 1 run and 3 hits in 5 innings with 4 strikeouts and no walks. Up next for the Mets, Clay Holmes will get the start in this afternoon's finale of this 3-game series against the Padres. First pitch scheduled for 4:10 p.m. from San Diego. And the Mets are efforting to avoid a series sweep there. That is your Sports Know, man. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 518. President Trump says his administration is going to be even more involved after seeing imagery of starving children in Gaza.
There's nothing you can say other than it's terrible when you see the kids. And those are kids, whether they talk starvation or not, those are kids that are starving.
According to a senior White House official, the president was disturbed, troubled by images, most of which he saw on TV. Trump publicly says he does not agree with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's assessment that no one is starving in Gaza and plans to work with international partners to fund and set up food delivery systems there. Correspondent Matt Bradley reports the situation in Gaza so dire that even doctors and nurses are suffering from malnutrition.
Many of them can't go to work. Many of them are so fatigued it makes their jobs difficult. Many of them are taking what little food they have back to their families. So this is a situation that means that even the caregivers are having trouble taking care of all of those people in need.
And that correspondent Matt Bradley says they're watching on now as food is starting to enter Gaza.
It's now the third day that the Israelis are allowing aid to be airdropped into the Gaza Strip, and they've opened the spigot somewhat, allowing truckloads of aid to come into the Gaza Strip to meet an incredible need among that population of more than 2 million. Despite the fact that the Israelis have been letting aid in, we've been seeing sickening images of babies dying. More than half of those who have been killed from malnutrition over the past couple of days and weeks have been children.
5:20. The tariff deadline for China has not been extended. The U.S.-China ended discussions in Sweden yesterday after 2 days of trade talks, and President Trump says he is optimistic about the matter.
I just heard from Scott that the meeting went very well today with China.
A Chinese official had said the tariff truce was extended, but U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer says that's not the case. Greer says a tariff pause extension was discussed, but that's not something they're bringing back to the table just yet.
He wants to meet, and I look forward to the meeting too, but I would say before the end of the year.
And this all comes after a deal was reached with the European Union over the weekend. And President Trump is now threatening to raise tariffs on Indian imports.
According to the president, they are going to pay 25% if the allied nations cannot secure a trade agreement. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer told CNBC that an elusive India trade agreement would require more discussion between the two countries. And it comes after Trump has previously called America's trade relationship with India very tough. I'm Brian Shook.
5:21. Let's go down to Florida. A sailboat that collided with a barge in Biscayne Bay near Hibiscus Island on Monday was removed from the water yesterday. The crash killed 2 girls, a 7-year-old and a 13-year-old. 2 other children are in critical condition.
We were not comfortable answering that yesterday. Through some of our investigative work and some of the interviews we conducted, we do believe all of the girls were wearing life jackets. Again, our investigation needs to confirm that.
They were aboard a sailboat with the Miami Youth Sailing Foundation, and camp counselor and another girl on board were not heard, so they were able to give Coast Guard others details of what took place.
We live in South Florida for a reason. We enjoy the waterways, and that's a part of our culture. That's a part of our lifestyle, and I encourage everybody to continue doing that safely and responsibly, as always.
Coast Guard, Florida Fish and Wildlife still investigating that crash. 522. We're hearing more from some of the search and rescue crews that were working in Texas after the flooding there on July 4th. Many of them now just starting to return home. The thought was that they were looking for bodies, not as many as initially thought, but they wanted to bring closure to these families who lost loved ones. And so one of the teams is from Colorado, and the leader of that team, Brandon Garcia, says they worked tirelessly to help bring some closure to a devastated community in Texas.
We could see their hurt, we could see their pain. Our team felt that. They wanted to serve and honor all of the people lost, and they worked their tails off in order to try to find as many as they could.
Crews included first responders from Colorado Springs and from a bunch of other states, by the way, who were along the Guadalupe River using drones, canines, and rescue boats to assist in the flood recovery. Almost all those teams have been sent back home. While we're in Texas, a Texas man behind bars now after pleading guilty to stalking and harassing WNBA star Caitlin Clark. A sheriff and a judge there addressing this 55-year-old, his name is Michael Lewis, during a hearing yesterday before sentencing him to 2.5 years behind bars.
You needed to move on long before you sent 800 messages to Caitlin Clark. I do believe that your behavior constituted stalking.
He will spend 1.5 years behind bars. Was arrested at an Indianapolis hotel in January after allegedly repeatedly sending threats and sexually violent messages to the Indiana Fever star through social media. During this court hearing yesterday, Davis accepted Lewis's guilty plea. The judge accepted Lewis's guilty plea.
I do accept your responsibility, and I will enter judgment of conviction and sentence you according to the plea. She is doing her job, and she wants you to stay away from her. So the court will sentence you to count 1 to 2.5 years executed at the Department of Corrections.
It was a master's class in miscommunication, misinterpretation, and rush to judgment. One click on the block icon, I wouldn't be here today.
And now he'll pay with 1.5 years behind bars. 525, a jury's deliberating the fate of a Colorado dentist accused of slowly poisoning his wife to death. James Craig was arrested in 2023 after his wife, Angela, became ill and died. Investigators say Craig killed his wife by poisoning her protein shakes with a deadly mixture of cyanide and some other drugs. But Craig's defense team says the prosecution never actually located that drug.
When you look at this evidence, that you take those blinders off, that you look at the evidence that they have provided you, and you look at the evidence that they have not provided, and we ask that you find him not guilty.
The instructions the jury was getting yesterday, prosecutors told the jury Craig poisoned his wife Angela numerous times, including a final dose when she was in the hospital, with doctors trying to figure out what kind of mysterious illness she had at the time.
How to make murder look like a heart attack, not how to make suicide look like a heart attack, not how do I talk my wife out of suicide, how to make murder look like a heart attack, because he knew what he was going to do. Make it look like an accident.
Some of the closing arguments, the jury now has that case. 526, California. Several other states challenging a decision by the White House to cut funding for Planned Parenthood. California Attorney General Rob Bonta says the Trump administration and Congress are gutting essential life-saving care.
Like cancer screenings and STI testing, simply because Planned Parenthood has spoken out in support of reproductive rights.
The lawsuit, which is, by the way, California's 36th case against the Trump administration, argues defunding the health care network is unconstitutional.
And will continue to defend health care as a human right. We won't sit back while Congress and this federal administration tries to roll back our progress, silence their opposition, and ignore the rule of law.
AG Bonta says the cuts could harm essential health services, particularly for women.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, July 30th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine this morning. Scattered thunderstorms possible this afternoon. Hot and humid again. The high going to be 95. Tonight and overnight, some clouds hang around, low 78, and better for Thursday. It'll be sun and clouds in the morning. Thunderstorms possible in the afternoon, but the high is going to be just 83. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. It's 79 and clear in Islip out on Long Island, 77 and clear in Berlin over in New Jersey, and it's 79 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 5:39, and we're continuing to hear about the victims of the Park Avenue shooting from the shooting that took place on Monday evening. Some of the names we learned early yesterday, others later. Wesley LePatner, she's the 43-year-old Blackstone employee, a wife and mom of 2 kids. She was a senior managing director at Blackstone. She was killed in the shooting, a Yale graduate, beloved in her community, survived by her husband and children. Here's somebody who knew her from her building.
Happy family. They play soccer. One of the kids play baseball. Loving mom. I'm sorry to hear that happened.
Yeah, we learned more about the off-duty NYPD cop, Didarul Islam, father of 2. His wife is 8 months pregnant. She's due with their 3rd child next month. Here's one of the heads of the police union.
It is the way our city can show this family that we will never forget this police officer, that he was willing to put his life on the line for the entire city.
Yeah, his funeral will take place tomorrow. Islam is an immigrant from the Bangladeshi community. He was assigned to the 47th precinct at a station house in Baychester, where there's purple bunting hanging this morning. In his neighborhood, he was a well-known guy.
His wife is we're expecting a baby next month. And other 2 boys, very little. It's not too big.
He lived in the Bangladeshi community up in the Bronx and Parkchester.
I'm very sad to hear that, and I know how she's feeling now. I could feel that, but all of my condolences.
Another of the killed was a security guard in this building at 345 Park, Alain Etienne. He had been there for a while. His son spoke out last night.
We're still trying to process what happened yesterday, and our prayers with everybody that's affected by this, and it's a very tough time right now.
Etienne has a partner of 8 years. Her name is Rachel Paoli. And his son, another son, was set to turn 7 on Saturday, or is set to turn 7 on Saturday, I should say. She is waiting, she says, for his 5 siblings to arrive from Florida as they figure out funeral plans. And the other person killed was this 27-year-old, Julia Hyman. She was on the 33rd floor of 345 Park. You may have heard the gunman picked the wrong, was apparently in his sights, was the NFL offices, but apparently he did not know where those offices were. He took the elevator to the 33rd floor and then shot and killed this 27-year-old woman, Julia Hyman, a Cornell grad who had been working at Rudin Property Management. She leaves behind a mother, a father, and a sister, Allie. And then there's a 41-year-old NFL employee who works in the finance department. He was seriously injured in the attack, but we're told this morning, this is the good news, is that he's in stable condition. And as over the last 48 hours, we've been hearing just from regular New Yorkers who are upset and thrown by this shooting, because we don't normally see workplace shootings here in New York City. And here's one of them. His name is Renee Atkinson. He says when he left work on Monday evening, he had no clue what was happening just a few feet away from him.
At 6:01, I grabbed my phone and my bag. I left the firm. I came downstairs. I arrived in the lobby, and it was like chaos. I heard sirens. I saw people crying. At the time, I had no time to check social media, so I was unaware of what was going on.
Yeah, and unlike a lot of New Yorkers who work in that neighborhood along Park Avenue, they say, they never really think about crime or security, but now they are.
It's Manhattan. This is Park Avenue. This is the East Side. This happened in broad daylight. This is very alarming. Extremely alarming.
Yeah, another worker from a neighboring building says he watched from his floor as police flooded in, and he was amazed. He says how great the NYPD is.
Every street was blocked off. It was just kind of unbridled chaos. The most amazing part of it to me was how quickly the law enforcement responded.
And he says he's thought a lot about the maniac who walked through this normally safe neighborhood with a rifle in his hand, and about those who did not know they were facing their last minutes of life.
Could have been anyone. You could have gone to the bathroom and that could have been it for you, or you could have taken a phone call and it could have been the difference between life or death. Nothing is promised. Every day is a blessing.
Yeah, so right across the street, some others who say they watched this play out as well from their offices say they'll think about this for a long time, but they say in the end, they feel like the NYPD and that keeps them safe, and that unfortunately things like this happen, but they say they'll continue to go to work every day like they always have.
Thankfully, I feel like in my building, the security's great, and there's definitely been an up in security noticeable today.
They've sent us a couple emails just trying to give us resources, mostly for people that might be struggling with the mental health side of things.
Yeah, and what we know this morning, some new information on the gunman. We had heard about that first note that he had on him, apparently, during the shooting Monday evening, where he talked about the fact that he suffered from mental health issues, CTE, maybe from playing football in high school in California, and that maybe this was some sort of weird revenge against the NFL, even though he never played professional football, and that's why he went to their offices. And now, apparently, overnight, we're hearing about a second note that was left in his Nevada home, where he apologizes to his parents for what he is about to do. All right, 5:45. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Ellick.
Thank you, Noam Maladen. We'll start here on the diamond in the Bronx. Cody Bellinger hit a 3-run homer. Anthony Volpe also went deep, and the Yankees erased an early deficit in a 7-5 victory over the Tampa Bay Rays. Max Fried recovered from a rough start and threw a career-high 111 pitches in 6 2/3 innings. Volpe delivered a tie-breaking single in the fourth and launched a 452-foot homer to center field in the eighth, the longest of his career. He also committed 2 throwing errors at shortstop, the second one on a play that should have ended the game. That gave Tampa Bay another chance before Devin Williams struck out All-Star Jonathan Aranda with runners at second and third for his 17th save. And New York pulled within 4 games of first-place Toronto in the AL East after falling 6.5 games back last weekend. Fried allowed 4 runs, 2 earned, and 4 hits, while surpassing his previous career high of 110 pitches while he was with the Braves. Paul Goldschmidt added a run-scoring single that made it 6-3. Up next for the Yankees, rookie Will Warren gets to start in the third game of this 4-game set against Tampa. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05 p.m. from Yankee Stadium tonight. In San Diego, the Mets got routed by the Padres. The final score 7-1. Good for New York's second straight loss after 7 straight wins, I should say, to boot. The Mets watched slugger Juan Soto lead the game after fouling a ball off his left foot in the fourth. They announced that Soto has a bruised foot. He was in considerable pain as he was checked by a trainer. He took a few swings and finished his at-bat, grounding out to second. There's just some swelling there, so the Mets got to wait until that goes down. New York tied it in the fifth on pinch hitter Starling Marte's bases-loaded sac fly, but that was the extent of their offensive output for the night. Starter Sean Manaea allowed 1 run and 3 hits in 5 innings with 4 strikeouts and no walks. Up next for the Mets, Clay Holmes will get the start in this afternoon's finale of this 3-game series against the Padres. First pitch is scheduled for 4:10 p.m. from San Diego, with New York efforting to avoid a serious sweep. That's your Sports Know, man. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. An investigation continues into possible voter fraud in the Republican primary, the June one for the New York City Council District 47 in Brooklyn, after 3 absentee ballots have raised red flags, including 2 votes that were cast by dead people. That's never good. And one by an 87-year-old man whose son says he never voted. So the Brooklyn DA's office has taken over the case, confirms it's actively investigating. Officials with the Board of Elections say 22 paper ballots have already been invalidated due to suspected fraud. One of the invalid ballots belongs to William Allen, who, according to his son, made it clear he did not want to vote in the Republican primary. In fact, he says he ripped up the ballot before the election because he said he didn't want to take part. So he says if someone voted for him, he says that is total fraud. The initial results showed that George Sarantopoulos as the winner of the Republican primary, but with ballots now under scrutiny, a recount's underway. Those results are expected to be released today. Sarantopoulos is accusing his Republican opponent, Richie Barsamian, the chairman of the Brooklyn Republican Party, of influencing the election process through his ability to appoint people to the Board of Elections. So he's almost suggesting that he's behind this fraud. So Barsamian is denying that. He says it's total BS.
That's not true. That's not correct. Everyone at the BOE was appointed long before I became chairman.
So he says he, too, wants to get to the bottom of these fake votes.
I have no knowledge and no involvement whatsoever with anything connected to this race.
Meanwhile, the Democratic candidate in this race is just having a field day with this, as you might guess. She says, yeah, there's fraud here, and she's not surprised by it.
I feel like it discourages participation. It makes people believe that the system can't be trusted, and we just simply can't afford that in our local elections.
Are you afraid now, knowing this, that it's happened in the past?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. The Brooklyn's DA office, by the way, we reached out to them for more comment on the investigation. So far, they're declining to make comment as they do their investigation. The Senate confirming Emile Beauvais to a lifetime position on the Third Circuit Court of Appeals late last night after a third whistleblower came forward with claims that Beauvais lied to the Senate about his role in the dismissal of corruption charges against Mayor Adams.
The Washington Post reports it reviewed the evidence brought by the latest whistleblower against Emile Beauvais. Beauvais, a former Trump personal attorney who was appointed acting U.S. Deputy Attorney General, ended up dismissing the charges against Adams himself after prosecutors on the Adams case resigned rather than dismiss it themselves. The whistleblower's claims, not spelled out in the report, are said to contradict sworn testimony from Beauvais about the Adams dismissal to the Senate Judiciary Committee last month. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
We got good news yesterday morning. That man accused of dragging his dog down a Queen Street and then setting it on fire, arrested. Police say Isaiah Gurley, who's 29 years old, taken into custody on Monday night, faces multiple charges, including aggravated cruelty to animals, reckless endangerment, arson. This video, which you don't want to watch, believe me, shows this man dragging this motionless dog down the street and then pouring some sort of accelerant on the dog and setting him on fire. Now, neighbors in this neighborhood said they recognized this guy from pictures. They didn't know who he was, but there's like, thank God he has been busted.
This is scary because we have animals. We all have dogs, and the dogs goes outside and the dogs walk. You know, I had cats. Then it's kind of like scary go outside.
Yeah, now neighbors want to know what kind of punishment he'll get for this crime that took place last Thursday on a street. This was 116th Avenue in South Ozone Park. A couple in the Bronx says they're still reeling from what they call a total lack of empathy in the aftermath of the Dominican Day parade over the weekend. This was the parade where 4 people were shot. So this couple, they're in their 70s. They're not at the parade. They were in this neighborhood for some sort of party. They had parked their car at the corner of Grand Concourse and East 167th Street, and they were getting ready to leave as the parade was ending on Sunday night. And as they did, and someone sent me this TikTok video, and I was shocked by it. All of a sudden, you see all these parade goers jumping on top of their car. Nobody's coming in to save this elderly couple, but there are lots of people taking out their phones because they know this will do well on TikTok. Here is one of the women involved in this. Her name is Rebecca Porter.
And I told my husband, oh my God, we're not going to make it out of here. We're not going to make it out of here. We're going to die.
Yeah, if you see this thing, I don't blame them for thinking that. They thought that this crowd was going to pull them out of the car, but they jumped on top of the car, and she didn't know what to do. So this woman, Rebecca Porter, and her husband, they FaceTimed their daughter and told her to call the police.
They refused to let us go. They kept banging on top of my husband's car, making fun of us and everything. I'm on FaceTime, and I see the car rocking. My parents are in danger. They are being bombarded. There's hundreds of people around their car. I don't know what to do.
So she calls the cops. The cops eventually clear this crowd, and the couple's able to drive away unharmed. The car's not harmed, though.
It should have been an innocent celebration, but instead it became this tyrant of affairs happening where people are getting stabbed, people are getting shot, and you think that's not going to happen to your parents.
Yeah, what a Dominican parade it was. So the damages to their vehicle, they say a couple $1,000s. They say, they're going to have to pay it. Who are they going to get to pay for it? And then, of course, on top of that, you have those 4 people who were shot at the parade on Sunday. Down at the Jersey Shore, this is an awfully interesting story. The town of Ocean Grove, for decades, they used to close the beach on Sunday mornings between 9 and noon for religious services, and you could not use the beach. Well, there were some people who fought back against that, and so they were forced to no longer open the beach. Well, now, to open the beach and no longer have those services. Well, now an administrative court judge has sided with a group fighting to keep a more than century-old tradition alive in that Jersey Shore town and close the beach on Sundays for between 9 and 12 to have those religious services again. And many people in Ocean Grove like this idea. They say, what's the big deal? Close the service, close the beach for 3 hours on Sunday morning so people can have a religious service.
They think they need to close the beach to have service because they can worship here with an open beach.
A wonderful example of God's creation, God's gift to us.
Yeah.
That's how I feel like when I look at the ocean and the sand. And so I agree that I think worship can go on and people can be on the beach.
So an administrative court judge sided with the Ocean Grove Camp Meeting Association, ruling that the group's 150-year-old policy to close the boardwalk and access to the beach every Sunday in the summer between 9 and noon does not violate the state's public access law. Now, the New Jersey Office of the Attorney General filing a response saying this is not true. It does violate that, separation of religion and state. But for the most part, people in Ocean Grove say they have no problem with this.
We're used to it being closed until noon. So for me, I don't know. I feel like it's just the norm.
That doesn't make sense. My form of worship might be sitting on the beach.
So the ruling by the judge, not the final word, by the way, it still faces review by the DEP, which could change or reject that ruling. 5:57, traffic, transit on the 7s. Here's Joe Noah.
When I was a kid, they used to completely shut the town down on Sundays, Ocean Grove. They had chains across, they had gates and chains, and you couldn't get into Ocean Grove on Sundays.
And there was is it still an alcohol-free town or no?
That I don't know.
Oh.
But yeah, we were kids, we used to call it Ocean Grave. but yeah, no, that's been like that forever. I can remember the driving by there on a Sunday and everything would be shut down. Crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, listen, God bless them,
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?